Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
Boom. We are off. So for tonight, James, I thought we would switch up the intro just a little bit. And so instead of me just sitting here kind of like awkwardly rambling about what we're going to talk about, I thought we would turn it more into like a dialogue. And so basically, I'll start by asking you, how are you doing tonight, James?
Doing good. It's been a
Yeah,
week.
good to hear, man. Good to hear. Well, it's almost over, and
Yeah.
we're doing this a night early, so it's like we're getting a jump start on the weekend. So let me ask you another question. What are we talking about tonight?
Oh, the rebuilding since 1957 Detroit Lions.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. Yeah, it's a never-ending process. But yeah, hey, I thought switching it up, starting the intro like that, maybe a little different than me just sitting here and kind of spitting it out the way I've been doing it. But yeah, so I guess let's. Man, it's the Lions. I better take a quick sip here because this stuff makes me a little bit nervous. I've been wanting to be positive going into tonight because we're diehard Lions fans, but we're also way biased because of that. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It seems like the more I've been reading about the team and just kind of getting refreshed on all the things they've done in the offseason, I don't know. I'm looking a little negative about it right now, but it's tough, man. Normally this time of year, I think we start drinking the Kool-Aid. We get all excited about, oh man, they brought this guy in, or they traded for that guy, or drafted that guy, and we're like, this is going to be the year. But we say it every year, and I don't know. I guess right now, maybe some of it's this COVID stuff and just kind of the shadow over everything with football right now. I'm just kind of like, I'm not feeling it. I don't know. And then especially with Patricia and Quinn, I just think they've done enough poor moves, bad choices, whatever you want to call it. That I don't know. I don't see this being the year. But either way, I thought it'd be a good topic for us to talk about, and we'll just go back and kind of recap everything. Um, I think before we jump into 2020, I think it'd be good to start by looking at one of our midseason trades last year because it affected some of our draft picks this year. And the pick or the transaction rather was the Quandre Diggs trade to Seattle, which happened midseason last year. And when I look at Diggs and what he brought to the team, the guy was a 6th-round pick. Back in 2015, started as a cornerback, converted to safety, and he was one of these guys that was just a blue collar, hard worker, and overperformed by any expectation. He worked his way from a 6th-rounder that nobody was really expecting much from to not only being a starter. Last year, before they traded him, the guy was named a freaking team captain. And, just in general, he was a great example of a homegrown talent, a guy that we went out and drafted later on. And he ended up panning out, made the team look really good. We found a guy, we developed him, it worked. It's like what every team wants to do with all their picks. And then what do you know? We signed him to a 3-year extension in 2018. We turn around 2019 and trade him. I mean, it's one of these moves that the Lions make that just kind of baffles me. And I know we're talking about 2020, but because his trade netted a pick in the draft this year, I thought it'd be good to talk about him. And really, the thing that got me fired up about it is, the Seahawks just traded for Jamal Adams. And there's already been at least one article that's come out saying with that trade, the Diggs Adams combo could be the best safety tandem in the league. And so, it's like I'm already pulling my hair out, and we're just getting this thing kicked off. But we're basically saying we traded away a guy for like pennies on the dollar that's now part of the best safety tandem in the league. And so I don't know. To me, hey, it sucks. I don't want to get too pissy early on here, but I think it was just a crap move. And I don't know. I guess we'll talk about what we got in return when we get to the draft, and we'll go from there. But I don't know. What did you think about Diggs? Am I making it out bigger than it is?
Well, I think you are because I don't think he was really producing up to his potential in Detroit. I think there was something that was holding him back. Like if you look at his stats when he was after he was in Seattle, he played 5 games in Detroit, 5 games in Seattle last year. He had his in the 5 games in Seattle, his stats were similar to the entire 2018 season. He had in 2018 where he started all 16 games. He had 3 interceptions, 8 pass deflections. In 5 games in Seattle, he had 3 interceptions and 3 pass deflections with 21 tackles in Seattle.
Yeah.
So I think a change of scenery actually made him better.
Maybe lit the fire under him.
Yeah, than I think he actually was showing when he was in Detroit.
Okay. Hey, that's a fair point. Sometimes guys need that. I've talked about it with Stafford a lot, which I'm sure at some point during our call we're gonna get to that. But yeah, it's just tough. I looked at it and I'm like, man, the guy's a freaking team captain and we're trading him. Couldn't you just say maybe it was a slump, maybe it was a bad couple games? Otherwise, why did you extend him the year before? And I get it. Nobody has a crystal ball. So, yeah, maybe they saw the play looked like it declined and they made the move. But I don't know. I just think when you have a homegrown talent like that, it's an opportunity to really make the organization look good. It lets the other players know that you're invested in developing them and taking care of them when they get to that level. And then when you ship them off like that, I think it sends the opposite signal that's like, well, we really have no loyalty to you. It truly is just a business. But hey, it seemed to be working out for Diggs, so I guess good for him. All right, well, I guess enough of that. Let's jump into 2020. So I thought what we would do is, start sort of kind of go like chronological order, if you could say that. And we'll start by talking about some of the trades. Then we'll look at what happened in free agency, and then we'll jump to the draft. And after that, we'll kind of sum it up and just kind of lay out what our expectations are for the team going into this next season. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So talking about the trades, at least the ones of note, the biggest one obviously is Darius Slay. Shipping him off to Philly. This is another one of these tough ones in my opinion. Where this is a guy who publicly said he wanted to be in Detroit, which is a rarity. Nobody wants to be on the Lions, but, we drafted this guy. He kicked some butt. We paid this guy. All of a sudden we hit a fork in the road where he's wanting more money. And, I think we were making the argument that he wasn't really a top 10 cornerback anymore. And so we didn't want to pay him what he felt he was worth. And so instead of giving a little and hanging on to him, we traded him to Philly, which I think was a great move for them. All they had to give up was a 3rd-round pick and a 5th-round pick. And for us, we ended up having a gaping hole at cornerback. So, I guess what's done is done. But, for a guy like Slay, it just doesn't seem like a good trade to me. I think we got crap value. What do you think?
Well, I don't like the value we got back from him, but I can see the argument that he did appear to be on the downslope. He had a fantastic year in 17, but didn't even come close to replicating that in 18 or 19.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess my thing is, I try to look at the team as a whole, and I look at what's the strategy. And how are we raising the overall talent on the team and filling all the different holes that we have? And when we let him go, it became so obvious that we were going after Jeff Okuda in the draft. And, to me, it's like, geez, if we maybe played our cards a little bit differently, maybe we could have come to terms with Slay and kept him around for another year or two, or however long, But maybe we could have made the money work for this year, and then we could have used that number 3 pick to fill another hole. Instead, we shipped him off and really didn't get much in return, to be honest. And we'll talk about who we drafted with those picks, but it's like, hey, we decided to ship him off. We have a gaping hole, and now we're going to fill it with a high pick when we could have used that high pick elsewhere. To me, it just, I don't know. And hey, I know it doesn't always work that way because it is a business, but I just, I don't know. I wish the Lions would have maybe given a little bit to try and make it happen and stack the deck to make a run this year. It seemed like by doing this, we're even, but we had to give up a first round pick to get back to even.
Yeah, but the other thing with Slay was, from what I'm reading, is there was some sort of personality conflict between him and Patricia, which I can see because Patricia is a disgrace and shouldn't be a head coach. But I mean, anytime the head coach is lecturing reporters on decorum over actually answering questions and putting a good team on the field, there's something wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Patricia is a horrible coach. I think he was a good defensive coordinator under Belichick. I think that even if you put him on another team as a defensive coordinator, he would be bad. I think it goes to the Belichick system, how he puts everything together. Everything he touches is gold. Those guys leave, and 9 times out of 10 they falter. And unfortunately, we went after him, and now we got to pay the price. And it's the same thing with Bob Quinn. It's like, hey, if he was the real deal, do you think the Patriots would have let him walk? They would have found a way to hang on to that guy, man.
Yeah, and you say 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10 with Belichick assistants, they falter. Not one Belichick assistant has gone on to be a decent head coach, and everyone's going to say, what's his name? And
Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien. Yeah, he's not he.
Hey, here's the thing. I like Bill O'Brien. I watched him on Hard Knocks. I followed him a little bit. I think he speaks well. He knows the game well, which, I mean, hey, he's a head coach. You expect that. But I think he's a good leader. He just hasn't put it all together, and he's had a long time to do that. So at some point you say, enough's enough. But out of the Belichick disciples, he's got to be, like, by far and away the top dog.
Yeah, he's the only one that's shown any level of success, but I mean, still, what did he do in the playoff game? He went for it on like 4th and 20, and then kicked a field goal on 4th and 3.
Yeah, it's confusing.
And then people say, well, what's his name in Tennessee? Vrabel. He had success, but he wasn't an assistant coach under Belichick. He just played. No,
and man, I can't believe you mentioned Vrabel, because the Lions interviewed Vrabel around the same time they interviewed Patricia. And man, I got giddy because I love Mike Vrabel. And I thought it might have been a year early for him to get a head coaching gig, because I think he was just the defensive coordinator for 1 year in Houston. He was like a linebackers coach or a defensive line coach or something the year before. And so I thought, man, that's a quick rise. Like, you want to see him maybe do 1 or 2 more things at defensive coordinator before you make the commitment at head coach. But at the same time, it's like, well-spoken guy, obviously knows the game. He's been to the Super Bowl. The guy, he's got that pedigree. I don't know. And I'm biased. Like I said, I love him. I would have rolled the dice on him over Patricia, but it didn't play out that way. And, hey, who knows? Maybe Tennessee, it was a 1-year wonder thing and it doesn't actually work out for him. But I'm excited and I'm happy for him. I think he's a great guy. And, he's put it together so far in Tennessee.
So far.
Yeah, and hey, I know some of it is they squeaked into the playoffs and then made a run. A lot of people point that out. It's like, well, they barely got in, and so how much has he really done? He had the balls to say Tannehill's taking the job over Mariota, man. And
Yeah.
I know Mariota wasn't his quarterback, so really, how tough of a choice was it? But that was a critical move for that team last year.
Yeah, and having Derrick Henry helps.
Oh, of course. Well, it's the same thing. How many times before him did they half-assed it with Henry? We're going to put you in a committee. You're only going to get so many carries a game. This last year, he said, "Fuck that. I'm going to let you carry it till the wheels fall off," and they never did.
Yeah.
So it worked. It worked. All right. So we're going on a bit of a tangent here. Let's bring it back to the trades. So we covered Slay. Really, the only other one that I got that is noteworthy, and maybe you'll add one that I missed. I'm sure there's stuff hanging out there, but it's the Duron Harmon trade, safety from the Patriots. Basically what we did, this goes back to the Diggs deal. We didn't actually use that pick from Diggs to draft a player, so I think I might have misspoke about that earlier. We used the pick to trade for Harmon. And, basically, you look at it and you're like, okay, we traded Diggs out and we got Harmon in. It's a safety for safety move. On paper, Harmon's a Patriots guy, so you can argue, okay, he's what Patricia wanted. He fits more than Diggs. But at the same time, I go back to the whole thing with Diggs. Well, why the heck did you not re-sign him? Why the heck did you extend him last year? And hey, I get it. Maybe the play declined and they said enough's enough. We're moving on. But I don't know. I'm hoping it works out with Harmon because I think there's a lot of pressure on him now where, hey, we got rid of a guy who was a team captain and he's now on a team where they're saying he's part of the best safety tandem in the league. But you're his replacement. So no pressure. You just got to be amazing. And he's not been an all-star with the Patriots.
Well, I mean, but with the Patriots, as not being a starter with the Patriots, he still has over his career similar statistics as Darius Slay has.
Okay.
Because Slay had what, 17 interceptions in I'm sorry, Harmon had in 111 games had 17 interceptions, and that's 29 starts. And Slay had what was his? It was very similar. 103 games, 19 interceptions.
I got you. I just think with Harmon, we're putting him in a spot where, if he doesn't really perform at a high level, it's going to look bad on Quinn. It's like, man, you traded out a guy that now has this buzz of this hype behind him, and you're bringing in someone that I don't know. It's like we're taking a leap of faith. It's like something the Lions do a lot, and I know you gotta try, you gotta take your shots. I guess it just goes back to me preferring Diggs, but we'll see. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. I got nothing against Harmon. I want it to work.
Yeah, but something had to be done with this this defense. Last year they gave up the most passing yards in the league.
Yeah, so you're saying it's more about a complete overhaul. Hey, we're having major dysfunction. We got to completely flip it and start over, which is now dangerous going into this season where these guys have a limited amount of time to gel with each other. But that's not something that is under anybody's control. And so, we just got to hope that they hit the ground running and quickly improve as these first few weeks of the season play out. I know we got a little bit of time yet, but, the defense was horrible. And we'll talk about the free agency next because there were some guys in free agency that, they're a part of that. They're a part of that revamp. But yeah, in terms of trades, those were really the two that I tagged as being noteworthy. Was there anything else you picked up on that you want to go through?
Those are the only real noteworthy ones I picked up on.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's shift it to the free agency then. And when I'm looking at free agency, I'm looking at a combination of the guys that we let walk as well as the guys that we brought in. And some of them kind of go hand in hand. Like we'll start with the first two. Basically we released Ricky Wagner and we brought in Hala Palavata, Vitae from Philadelphia, however the heck you say his name. We'll just call him Vitae, or however you say the last name is the easiest way of putting it. But other ones, they won't really line up. Some of it's just you go and get a guy because you're trying to upgrade a position or you're trying to add some depth. But, these two, I think starting there makes sense. So we let Ricky Wagner go, which at first, I'll be honest with you, I was okay with it until I saw the cap hit involved. And, man, I just wanted to freaking flip the lid. Basically, we cut this guy, and we got a $5.8 million cap hit. And so I'm just thinking, and he goes to Green Bay. They sucked him up real quick. They said, okay, we're going to take you. And so basically, we're paying the guy to pay for our competitor. And I know that we had to make a move to upgrade the position because he's been average at best for us. And he's not been much in the run game. But, have we ever had a run game? No, not since Barry. But the thing is, for me, I'm like, man, if we're going to have that kind of a dead cap hit, why don't you just hang on to the guy? And you can try and upgrade regardless. Just communicate with him that, hey, we're going to bring in a new guy. We're going to have some extra competition. That might change things for you. We want to keep you here. If you're not the starter at right tackle, maybe you're the starter somewhere else, or you're our high-end rotational backup guy. Don't just piss away $5.8 million.
Yeah, and plus the guy they brought in is been basically a career backup.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with it next. Is hey, I think he's had some good tape in his time with Philly, and he's one of these guys that was a later round draft pick that has developed. And, I think you expect that a lot more with offensive linemen because you see a lot of those guys in the middle rounds or the later rounds turn into something. But, he was working his way up. The problem I have with it is, yeah, we're taking the leap of faith again on a guy who has not really been a proven starter, and we're paying him $9 million per year. That's like, for $9 million per year, I should be getting a guy who's freaking solid, man. And so I think we're taking a big risk. But, some of that probably goes to the Lions. Hey, we've been such a bad franchise for so long that we just got to overpay the shit out of it to get a guy. It just sucks. I just think it's the same thing, I was getting to with Herman. I think we're putting this guy in an unfair spot because now if he doesn't do great, he's going to be viewed as a disappointment because he's getting a lot of money. He's getting the money to be solid, and he's not proven that yet.
Wait, we're paying him over $9 million?
Yeah, so originally it was reported that he was getting $10 million a year over a 5-year period, but it was corrected that it's $9 million per year average. And so, man, $9 million per year is a lot.
So this year we're for our right tackle, we're paying $16 million.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. That's the cap hit.
What the heck?
Yeah, and I like going to spotrek.com, whatever their site is, to look at the cap numbers. And I don't know, one day I'll be able to fully understand what it all means. But I always try just to look at the yearly average as kind of my, my pulse check. Does it seem high? Does it seem low? What's going on? And this one I just thought, crap, man, it's a lot of money. And, I guess connected to that, since we're talking about linemen, we let Graham Glasgow walk, and this is a guy that was another Diggs type story. He was I know he was more of an earlier pick than a later pick or a mid-round pick, whatever you want to call it. But, he's a guy that developed into a solid starter, at least in my opinion. And Our offensive line has been shoddy, to say the least. But I thought he did a great job. And another homegrown talent type of story, we let him walk, and the dude's getting paid by Denver. It's like, hey, man, wouldn't you have rather, maybe save some of this money and instead of going and bringing in the guy from Philly, use it on a guy that you picked and developed and it was a success story? Use that to share with other people around the league. Hey, man, if you come in and you do a great job, I'm going to take care of you. You know, this is like, hey, you came in, you did good, and we're done with you. You know, and if you're the Patriots, you can have that luxury because you're so good at finding new people and making those moves. But for us, it's like, no, man, we're not that good. We should be hanging on to these guys as tight as we can.
Right, but I think one of the things I look at, and we'll get to it more and when we talk about the draft, but I really like this guy they drafted, the Jonah Jackson.
Yeah, we're going to talk about him. Yeah,
when I started getting into it, I think down the line he could be a lot better than Glasgow was.
Yeah, and that's that's a situation where maybe if you're Quinn, you're thinking, hey, I did it before with Glasgow, I can do it again with Jonah Jackson. I don't need to pay this guy because I can find the next guy. And, I can understand why you might think that. I just think that you send a bad message to the locker room that you're not going to take care of your guys. And then if you swing and you miss on a guy like Jonah Jackson, you look like an idiot, And so yeah. I guess, hey, if you're Quinn, you just got to accept that that's the risk here. All right, but yeah, we'll come back to that in a little bit. We got the draft after we burn through the next couple picks here from free agency, and the next one I had on my list, and you can jump in with any of the guys anytime that you want, but was Jamie Collins, and maybe we could have started here because on an annualized basis, he is the biggest guy we brought in. We're going to be giving him $10 million per year. And I'm going to be honest, when I look at Jamie Collins and everything he's done from his time with the Patriots and Cleveland and back with the Patriots, I'm just skeptical. This guy has been a mixed bag his whole career. And I guess let's just start his first stint with New England. Looks okay. He gets a few years in, and instead of committing to him for the long haul, they trade him to Cleveland for a third-round pick. I thought it was a good, that's a typical Patriots move. Hey, we're going to get some value for this guy. We don't need to pay him. We can find somebody else. Cleveland takes that, and they grossly overpay him. And they put him on a contract making $12.5 million a year. Shortly thereafter, they come to their senses. They realize that they got less than they bargained for, and they released him. The Patriots go back. Typical Patriots move. Hey, we'll take you back, but we're basically going to take you for a league minimum deal. They got him for like just over $1 million in a base salary last year. He goes out, puts up another decent year, and here we go. We're the next team to pay the guy. And I understand he's got the connection with Patricia and the New England pipeline. But crap, man, look at the Browns. It didn't work for them. Why do we think it's all of a sudden going to work for us? That's a lot of money for a guy that nobody really wants to pay.
Yeah, I hated the signing. When I looked at his stats, I was just like, are you kidding me? Last year what's his big stat line? Oh, he had 7 sacks last year, which is probably decent compared to most of the Lions players. I think one had 7 sacks. The rest had like 2, if any. But it's just I don't understand it at all.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I guess when I look at the team right now, we let Devin Kennard go. He's with Arizona. I know, he was no all-star, but he did have some production. Jared Davis hasn't made it happen for a first-round pick, which sucks. I was really digging that pick when we drafted that guy. and it just hasn't come together. I know some of that, people say, well, we played him out of position for that first year or two or whatever, and then he never made the adjustment. Now we tried moving him back, but maybe it's too late, and he's got bad habits that he's got set in, and who knows? But it didn't work. We overdrafted whatchamacallem from Hawaii last year, and you just look at the linebacker group for the Lions. I think they're so bad that Jamie Collins might actually look good because he's going to be the best of the bunch. But I think that for people like us that are really paying attention, he's still going to suck by any real standard. It's just there's no other competition on the team.
Yeah, and looking at the stats last year, Jamie Collins and Devin and Kennard were comparable statistically. Both had 7 sacks and 10 to 15 QB hits, and we were way overpaying Collins to replace exactly what Kennard did for us.
Yeah, and so we're overpaying, and I don't know. I guess we're hoping he ends up being a leader on that defense and represents what Patricia wants and gets other people fired up. I think we're hoping Jelani Tavai takes a huge step up at inside linebacker, which, he showed some potential, but man, taking him in the second round was just stupid. But hey, I know we're talking 2020. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think, like I said, highly skeptical that Collins ends up being what we paid for. And that sucks. We'll see. So here's another one where I got 2 guys kind of linked together. I think are worth talking about. So we released Damon Harrison, Snacks, and we brought in Danny Shelton. Another Patriot guy that we brought in. And he was also a Cleveland guy. It's funny how that worked. But, Damon Harrison, this was a situation similar to Slay where, we thought his value was different than what he thought his value was. And so we couldn't come to terms on money the way that he wanted. And so basically, from what I understand, he was just asking to be released, which we granted after the season was over. The problem I have is, we're going back to one of these situations where you have a proven, solid starter, and, you're a team that is just horrible at finding these guys and hanging on to them. Man, can't you stretch $1 just a little bit to make the guy happy, at least for one more year, and give it a shot? Or do something where maybe you trade him and you get something in return? I think just to let him go, it just bothers me, and I get it. He was kind of one-dimensional. He just stuffed the run, but that plays a role. In the kicker with this one, similar to Ricky Wagner, man, this guy's got a $5 million dead cap hit for the team. So it's like, come on, you're telling me you'd rather take a $5 million cap hit than come up with a couple extra bucks to make this guy happy and maybe have him more motivated coming back for one more year where he knows the team, knows the system, and, he's maybe going to put it together.
Well, see, I disagree with you about Harrison. I'm actually glad they let him go. I think he was on the backside of his career. He was declining. He's not. We need a pass rush, and he was not effective in the pass rush with about 4 QB hits annually.
No, you're right. He doesn't get pressure on the quarterback. No.
And if you compare from 2018 to 2019, he went from 81 tackles in 2018 to 49 in 2019. So it was just a huge drop off. Like if it was a little bit, if he had 60 or if it was like 15, 20, I could see it, but I just saw him on the decline where Jamie Collins in what he brought in, he had three sacks last year, and 6 QB hits. And he also had 61 tackles.
Yeah, so if they're putting the priority on getting to the quarterback, I think that's what you're saying. That's why they made these moves. The problem I have is, so now you look at who did we replace him with? And keep in mind, we let Ashawn Robinson go too. So we've got a gap on the interior defensive line, and we bring in Danny Shelton, which, I don't want to knock the guy. I don't think he's horrible. And when I look at the price tag, we're getting him for $4 million a year. I think that's much more reasonable. If he doesn't pan out to be anything, a guy like him for $4 million a year, it's not going to make me cry or anything. But he was a high pick with Cleveland, never really put it together. It goes to New England. We got the New England pipeline going on again. And, I guess that's like the reason, hey, let's go out and get him and bring him in. He's going to bring the Patriot way. And maybe it all comes together on the defense because now we got, 27 Patriots players here. That's an exaggeration, obviously. But we got quite a few now. And, hey, I'm hoping they all get it together. Otherwise, this defense is going to suck again. And we're going to be right back to where we started, which is just firing everybody's ass. And the problem with that, and I know I'm kind of going off topic here a little bit, but, if we get to the end of the year and they suck it up and we got a clean house, we now are stuck with some of these guys. Flowers that we got last year, Collins, Vitae. I mean, these are guys that the new regime is going to be handcuffed to, and, they're going to have to either take big cap hits to get rid of them or whatever, or deal with them for a year or two, which means you're talking, even if you get a new regime in, the first 2 years are going to be kind of tainted because they don't really have their guys.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the last one I had here for free agency, and there's plenty more that I'm sure we could talk about. So if you have anybody, I definitely want you to bring it up. But one that I liked, which is not flashy by any means, was that they went out and they brought in Reggie Ragland at inside linebacker. I'm not expecting him to be some kind of a rock star and come in and take over that starting job. But I do think that he's going to be valuable depth for us, especially considering how bad we've been at linebacker basically forever. So what do you got? You got anybody on your list you want to talk about for free agency? Anybody that walked or anybody we brought on?
Well, Desmond Trufant.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's talk about him. Yeah, I didn't put him on my list, but I like him. What do you think? I like him as I like him as our number 2. Let me put it that way.
Well, I like him a lot. I think the reason they brought him in was to lessen the blow of trading Slay away.
Yeah.
But I mean, he does in his career. Last year he finished the year injured, or he started one. Well, he was hurt as part of last year, but I mean, he still has similar statistics to Slay.
Yeah, he's flashed some potential for sure, and this goes back to the whole overall strategy for the team that bothers me a little bit, because I thought, hey, you hang on to Slay, you bring this guy in, you have no reason in the world to use number 3 on a cornerback. You could go out, you could get Derek Brown, you could go after Isaiah Simmons, have a wild card on your defense, or you could even trade down, which, we'll talk more about that because Quinn can't seem to figure out how to do that shit, but you trade down and you go after a guy like Patrick Queen and stock up on some other draft picks. They could have done so many cool things with this year that I don't know. It kind of bothered me that none of the things that I had in mind happened. But then again, I'm not paid to be the GM, so and I know it's easier said than done. I just as a fan, you get tired after a while. You want to see, hey, make a splash, do something, like spread the love, stock up on talent. Don't just be trading this guy and hoping you get a guy to replace him, Hang on to that guy and go out and throw a dart on another guy. And if it works out, you're one up.
Yeah, well, like if you go back to on draft night, we were basically begging him to trade down.
I know. And there were reports on draft night basically that he came across as desperate and he was trying to do a deal with anyone. And it's like when you hear things like that, it's like, shit, man. Like, we got a problem with our GM. He was in a prime position, in my opinion, to at least drop down a couple spots. And here's the deal: maybe you drop down to 5, okay, and you don't have to get another first round pick or a combination of high picks. Drop down a couple spots and just take whatever you can get, man, because you're still going to get a stud on defense, whether it's Derek Brown or Okuda is there. He probably would have still been there. Isaiah Simmons, any of these guys. There was so much talent at that part of the draft. It's like, come on, man. Don't be greedy and say you got to get, a huge take to move. Just get something. Show that you can do it. Show that you can make that key trade, man. And he didn't do it.
Of course not.
And it sucks because it became public that, it was an embarrassing thing that, I think one guy said he looked like the desperate guy at the end of the bar at the end of a night trying to take home anybody he could. It's like, shit, you hear stuff like that and it just, it sucks, man. It sucks. And I don't know. I haven't really seen enough from him to say he's a legit GM. I think he's had a few good draft picks, most of them being in the first 3 rounds, which you kind of expect, hey, you better hit on those guys or you're going to have a problem. But I think his ability to trade has been grossly subpar. His ability to move around in the draft, I guess it's the same kind of thing. We're talking trades. He's just not been able to navigate it very well.
Yeah, I was upset when they didn't fire him.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Hey, I was upset they didn't fire Patricia after year 1, and now we're going on year 3. It's like, oh, geez, what are we doing?
Well, I was upset that they fired, who was the coach? Was it Smith?
Oh, you're talking about Caldwell, who got him to the playoffs?
Yeah, who got him to the playoffs, takes him to the playoffs, and then they fire him because, losing in the first round of the playoffs isn't good enough for you?
Like, here's my thing with Caldwell, all right? Because I'm sure I bashed him when he was here, and I bash every person who's here, except for Jim Schwartz. I love that guy, and I'm bummed out it didn't work out with him. But with Caldwell, I thought it was awesome how he brought in a professional demeanor that the team hadn't really seen in a while, and they got to that level where they could get to the playoffs, and that was great. But at the same time, he made some freaking bonehead calls in games that just had you scratching your head like, what the heck is going on? And I don't have an example off the top of my head. I just remember that every week he was getting torn apart on the radio. Like, oh, can you believe he did this? Why would he do that? And it's like, yeah, hey, maybe you gave him one more year. Maybe we get that playoff win. But I can see that it was just so checkered that it was like, nope, we're going to move on. We think we're in a position to get an up-and-coming, defensive-minded guy from the Patriots tree that's going to make it all happen for us. And it was foolish. It was foolish.
Wait, didn't Caldwell defer on the coin toss in overtime?
That might have been him. Yeah, that might have been him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first thing that popped in my mind when you said he made some bonehead calls.
Yeah. It sucks, man, but that's how it is for the Lions. I mean, it's there aren't really any great coaches just sitting out there saying, "Shit, I would love the Lions to give me a call." So we're taking a chance either on an up and comer or a retread, and we know that it's either going to be a risk or it's got a spotty mark in the history or whatever, but. It's tough. Yeah, Patricia, I don't know. Hey, man, I hope they put it together, but I don't know. I would just prefer that they move on. But we're committed for a year, so I guess we got to keep our fingers crossed now.
Unfortunately, I think we're going to be committed for more than 1 year.
You think they're going to hang on to him longer?
Yeah.
So you think all right, so I guess give me your sneak peek. You think they're going to have enough success that they keep him, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think when you look at their schedule and everything, I think they could end the year somewhere between 8-8 and 10-6.
That's bold, man. That's bold. All right. Well, here, let's not go too far into that because we're catching that at the end when we kind of sum it all up. All right, and I don't want to pull everything out of the bag for you, but all right. So let's move on and talk about the draft. I love the NFL draft. You know, it's like one of those times a year where there's not much going on to like maybe the average football fan. They're like, man, this is so boring. And, you know, for me, crap, I'm like reading up on players because I don't get to watch a lot of college football. I kind of put my effort on watching the NFL. And so once the season's done, it's like, man, I'm scouring every resource I can to find out, you know, who's out there this year. Who are the Lions going to be going after? What can we do? You know, do we got to move up the board to get a guy? Should we be moving back and going after a different guy? You know, whatever it is. And so the draft I always get excited about. And then it honestly, it seems like maybe it's just a muscle memory thing with the Lions, but it's almost like as soon as it starts, they make that first pick, and I'm like, they fucked it up again. And it's extreme because, like I was just saying a minute ago, I think Quinn's first couple picks every year seem to be okay, minus Tavai, or Jelani Tavai. I still am just scratching my head about that. But, you know, you'll look at this year. Okay, so we got Jeff Okudah in the first round at number 3 overall. We needed a cornerback because Slay was gone. But here's the problem I have with it. He's now tied as the highest drafted cornerback in the league. It goes back in history. It goes back to what I was saying about some of these other guys that we brought in. You're bringing him in under circumstances that it just creates unrealistic expectations. You know, so in his mind and in the public's view now, you are the highest drafted cornerback ever. Okay, you better play like it, otherwise you're a bust. You know, and we did the same thing last year with Hockenson. Here we go again, top 10 tight end. You know, they're few and far between. You better be the next Gronk, otherwise people are going to be calling for your head, man. I just don't like that the Lions put people in this position.
Yeah, I think in college, I say it Akuda. I don't know how you actually.
Yeah, I'm probably saying it wrong. Yeah.
Akuda.
I gotta wait until the season starts, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's how you say it. You know.
Yeah, I think he's a solid cornerback, but at the number 3 overall pick, you're right. It puts unrealistic expectations on him. I mean, in college, I was looking up his college stats, and he had against him, he allowed like a 55 passer rating.
Okay.
55.6 passer rating, and he never allowed more than 50 yards a game.
Yeah, but he also had like 0 picks, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the downside. So he's a good shutdown corner, but he's not a turnover machine.
He's not a game changer.
Yeah.
And we took him at 3 to be a game changer.
Exactly. Like I think that's why we knew we were picking him. Especially after Slay, but we should have traded down. We could have easily got the trade down to, well, maybe not 5, because I think we should have played Miami and the Chargers against each other.
Yeah, pit them against themselves.
They were drafting quarterbacks, so play them against each other. Maybe drop down to 5 or 6. Get some maybe picks next year, or their second round pick, whatever, and then we could, because that's what we need. We need bodies to come in that can, not necessarily just bodies, but we need that talent to come in, because especially defensively, because our defense was horrible last year.
Yep. Yeah, it was god awful.
And there's no way looking at the draft and who was picked between 3 and 6, I don't think there was any way that Okudah would have been picked I don't think he would have gone to New York, because New York definitely needed a tackle, offensive line, and then
Miami wanted Tua.
Yeah, Miami wanted Tua, and Herbert apparently was the guy for the Chargers. They're not picking him. Jacksonville would have had to jump up ahead of us.
Yeah,
because that's who picked the next cornerback.
Yeah, and I guess let's just say by this point, the Slay thing is history. It's already done. And so if you take that gamble and you're wrong, you now are in a position where you probably got to trade back in at the end of the first round somewhere and get a cornerback. But man, it was like I was just saying a few minutes ago. Let's just say you go to 5 and somebody jumped up and took your cornerback. Okay, you still got a gaping hole at defensive tackle. You could go out and get Derek Brown. And I think everybody be happy. They're like, okay, great pick. Or you go after Isaiah Simmons, a guy that has just like intrigued everyone. The dude has blazing speed for a linebacker. He can play all sorts of positions on the defense. You got a head coach in Matt Patricia who's supposed to be this defensive genius. Like, wouldn't you want a guy like that? That's like your Swiss Army knife. You can have him do a little bit of everything. So, hey, why were you so afraid of missing out on your cornerback? There were other guys. Yeah, I get it. Now we're stuck with Trufant as our number 1. That's a little bit scary. But, like I said, they could have traded back later in the round and gotten another guy, or they could have traded a team and gotten a guy. And, I guess, hey, the priority was getting the cornerback. I mean, and I know that that's a New England trait. We want to have a great 1-2 punch at cornerback. I don't know, man. I keep going over the same ground here.
Yeah, even if we traded back and somebody jumped ahead of us, say Jacksonville jumped ahead of us, the cornerback that Jacksonville drafted is a solid cornerback too.
Yeah, so we'd have to trade back into the first round to get the guy, but there were options.
We could have picked him instead of also though, is what I'm saying. Is say we traded back to 6, we could have picked the Henderson at 6.
I got you. Yeah. No, I got what you're saying.
If we really wanted a quarterback that badly, I mean, there were options to where you just trade back, you get the value for allowing teams to jump up, especially trading back to Chargers, because I think the Chargers really wanted Tua as well.
Yeah.
So you get the Chargers to trade up to the 3rd pick and to jump ahead of Miami to get Tua, and then say somehow somebody takes Okudah. Well, then at the 6th pick, you just take Henderson if you really, really want the cornerback.
Yeah, no, I got you. They had options. And I don't know. I'm probably being too hard on them, but I think they shit the bed. But what's done is done, and we got to live with it, and hopefully it works out. But all right, so let's go on to round 2. We got DeAndre Swift. I'll let you start. What do you think of the pick?
I'm torn on it because I really want the Lions to have that solid running back. And DeAndre Swift, he set the school record last year at 6.6 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
But you need the offensive line to be able to run block properly, and also need to be concerned about not being able to get the quarterback with four linemen.
Yeah.
And so I'm so torn on it. Like, I love Swift as a player. I hope he sticks, but the Lions can't figure out how to use a running back.
Yeah. No, I agree 100% with what you're saying. I look at it the same way, and I think, I don't know if it was in one of our last videos or if you and I just talked about it offline a little bit, but, I look at Swift and I'm like, man, I think it was a steal that we got him in the 2nd round like that. But I also look at it and I'm like, fuck, we're going to waste this guy's talent, man. He's, one of these guys, maybe he needs to be, like, in my opinion, like I've talked to you about Kamara, where maybe he's best where he's in a 1-2 punch deal. I can see that with Swift. The problem is we're saying that 1-2 punch on the Lions is him and Kerryon Johnson. And I think it could be a great combo. I think we've seen some flashes out of Kerryon Johnson when he's been healthy. But like you said, the offensive line sucks. And we're going into this year rolling the dice. Ragno's great. I love him. Taylor Wan, he's been up and down, but he showed some potential. We're paying some money for this guy from Philly. He should be good. but both of our guard spots are big question marks. I know Jonah Jackson's one of the next guys we're going to talk about. Can he step up and do that this year? I don't know. I think they're planning on, forget the guys' names, but these other two guys fill in the spot at least temporarily. But here's my other concern with the Swift pick is that, it goes back to Matt Stafford. Okay. I know, hey, everybody loves Stafford. He's got a shit ton of stats. Okay, that's cool. Whatever. Stafford, all he does is laser the ball. Like, let's just rocket it in with all my muscle. And when you're a running back, you got to have a little bit of touch on that pass because that running back's only fucking 10 or 15 feet away from you. Just flick it to him and give it to him. Look at what happened with Ebron, man. That guy couldn't catch shit that Stafford threw to him. He goes to Indy, and he's got Andrew Luck knowing, okay, I got a guy right over the middle. I'm just going to give him a nice little pass. And Stone Hands Ebron becomes a freaking Pro Bowler. I just don't see it working with Stafford and Swift unless Stafford, adjusts his game. He is getting older. He should be getting smarter, figuring these things out. We just haven't seen it to this point. It's like, I don't know. Every year, hey, he just lasers it in there no matter where you're at on the field. And that doesn't bode well when you're a running back. And I think that they're expecting a lot of that with Swift. I think they're expecting Kerryon's going to be a little more of the hammer, and Swift is going to be a little more of that gadget guy that, we're going to get him off in the flat. We're going to throw him a little thing here and have him work some magic. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to third-round picks. We got two of them. We'll start with Julian Okwara. I'm sure I'm butchering it again, which you'd think I would understand his name since we have his brother on the team. But out of Notre Dame, this is a pick that I liked a lot. And at the time of the draft, I was actually bitching about it. And this goes back to that whole muscle memory thing. Man, they get off doing this stuff, and I'm just like naturally like, man, they're just not going to get it right. And I'm just all bummed out and pissed off. But, after I calmed down a little bit, I thought about this guy, and I'm like, you know what? This is actually probably a pretty good value pick because I think, really we got him here just because he got injured last year at Notre Dame. And had he not been injured, there were some guys that saying he could have been a first-round pick. And so, the concern is, does he come back from that injury, and can he pick up where he left off? It's a question mark, but I think for a third-round pick, I was happy they rolled the dice. I think him and his brother, it's kind of a cool story. His brother was one of those guys that came on and out of nowhere put up some stats and showed that he could be a player in this game. And then, hey, just in general, I mean, hey, the defensive line has been struggling, so we need help. So I was good with throwing a dart and seeing what happens.
Yeah. The thing with his brother though is there was a huge decline from 18 to 19 in his pass rush ability. I think Aquara, whatever, however you pronounce it, Julian. Mm-hmm. I think Julian needs he's kind of needs to strengthen, I think, his lower body a little bit to be able to. I see him giving up a little bit too much ground in the run game.
Okay.
For to be a solid linebacker, but I think a third-round flyer, if he can strengthen his lower body, I think he shows flashes that he can handle it, but he just needs to not give up the ground when he's in the run game.
Okay, I got you. Fair enough. And hey, I think a third-round pick, yeah, you're expecting, the guy's got some kind of a hole in his game he's got to address, or he would have been a first-rounder. So, we'll see if he gets there. But yeah, so our next third-round pick, hey, you've already kind of leaked it a little bit. Jonah Jackson, another Ohio State pick. You're high on this guy, and it's worth noting that he is part of the Darius Slay trade. So when we traded with Philly, we got a third-round pick and a fifth-round pick. One of those third-round picks, we traded up, I think, about 10 spots to get Jonah Jackson. But tell me a little bit more about your take on him.
Well, the thing I look at with him is in college he allowed one sack. And I think it was something like over 1,000 passing plays. He allowed one sack. And I don't know if that's him or if where the offense is, because college game is a lot of the quick passes and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think he has some improvement to do, but with his pass blocking, even though he only allowed one sack, that he has this upper body strength and stuff, but he just has to be able to hand placement. I think is the issue I have with him.
Gotcha.
And but if he can get that down, and I think he can easily be a better guard. He might even start this year as a third round pick, which doesn't happen much, but for the old line it does. I think he was probably the third best guard in the entire draft.
Yeah, so the thing is, and I see what they're doing. They brought him in with the expectation that he's going to help with the run game. And I'm good with that because we need to put an emphasis on being able to run the ball instead of just throwing the ball 50 times a game. The concern I have with the pick, and I like the pick, I'm just going to tell you that, but my concern with the pick is that I didn't find many sources at all that had him going anywhere near that high in the draft. In fact, a lot of the ones that I read were showing 6th round or later, with a lot of them having the guy being a borderline undrafted pick. Well, not a pick, but undrafted pickup. And that made me nervous. And after the draft was over, obviously now we're committed to the guy. I've done a lot more research on him in particular, and I share some of your viewpoint that I think he has a lot of potential and he can step up and be that guy. I don't know if it's this year, but it would be great if it is because we definitely need it. I just see the disparity with all these evaluations, and I think, man, for a third-round pick, it makes me nervous. But, hey, we talked about it earlier. Quinn hit on Glasgow. Maybe he's got an eye for these offensive linemen, and maybe this works. I mean, we're hoping it works. If it doesn't work, it sucks. But and that goes on to the next one. So the 4th round pick, we grabbed Logan Stenberg from Kentucky, another guard. I think another guy that they're hoping can do something in the run game. And I've not read up as much on this guy. I think I had to, of course, for Jonah Jackson because it was tied to the Slay trade. It's like, okay, that we're going to be thinking about that for a long time. Did we get a good deal? Because here's who we got now instead of Slay. So. But Stenberg, like I said, I haven't read a ton about him, but I've heard some good things. I don't know how much we really need to touch on that as we get kind of the 4th round and later. A lot of these guys, it's you're hoping that they latch on and they do something, but I think more times than not they don't make it. So,
yeah, I tried to do a little bit of reading up on him, and I see him as a backup.
Yeah.
That we drafted in the 4th round. I just think he's kind of marginal, I think, is the consensus on what I've been reading about him.
So do you think, based off of what you've read, do you think he's a career backup kind of guy, or is he a backup at best that we drafted and he's just going to be a backup because we drafted him, we're going to hang on to him for a couple of years? Or is it too soon to say?
It's too soon to say, but from what I read, I would tend to lean more towards he's a career backup.
Okay. Well, for a 4th round pick, I'm not upset with that. I'd take a guy that's, as long as he's got some longevity in the league, I think, and hey, you never know. Maybe it turns into something more, These offensive linemen, man, it's like you roll the dice, and it seems like a lot of times they pay off. These guys develop. So maybe we give them time, we put them around the right people, and hopefully we'll be pleasantly surprised. But yeah, so let's go 5th round. That's where we got Quintez Cephas, however you say his name. I know I'm butchering these. This is how long it's been since the draft and how long.
Back to to Stenberg, one of the things that I I thought at the time, and when I look back at it, it's clicking back in my head, is we could have at that time drafted who Jacob Eason to be for our backup
Yeah,
quarterback
it had a
and
solid backup QB.
have a
Yep.
solid backup quarterback instead of
Chase Daniels.
yeah, Chase Daniels. I mean, there's a decent ish. I mean, for a fourth round possible safety, we could have drafted Wallace from Clemson.
Hmm.
So I mean, I don't like the pick of a second offensive line, a second guard where we did.
Yeah, you thought that there was maybe you take a risk on a guy that's got a higher ceiling, whether it's,
Exactly.
yeah, the quarterback or whoever it might be. And that makes sense. I think you get to that point of the draft, I'm totally comfortable throwing some darts like that and seeing what happens. And especially for a backup quarterback. We know that was an issue for us last year. And Chase Daniel, hey, I know he's been in the league a long time, but I want a backup quarterback that could surprise you when he gets in the game. A guy that he could come in and be like, holy crap, we got another starter that we could be rolling out here at any time. And we're not getting that with Daniel. I mean, he's going to be the guy that he's a game manager, and he's never really going to be more than that. But, I mean, he is a backup, and he's a career backup. So he's smart, and, he can do something. So we'll see how it plays out. But, all right, so what do you think about this wide receiver from Wisconsin? Because he was the fifth-round pick that we got from Philly. So he's the last part of the Slay trade. And I don't know. I've heard some great things on this guy, but I'm just looking at the depth, and I'm like, how is this gonna work out for us? We got Galladay, Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, and then we got two high-priced tight ends and DeAndre Swift. Like, where's this guy ever gonna get a reception? It's probably not gonna be this year. And so now he's part of this trade with Slay, but he really will not have any impact until at least next year, unless there's like a million injuries on offense.
First of all, I don't understand why we drafted a wide receiver at all
Yeah.
in
Well,
the
yeah,
first,
because we suck at it, other than Kenny Galladay.
and also, but this guy, when I went back and read up on him, he drops the ball a lot,
Oh yeah, I can't handle that, man.
and I mean it's like Nelson Aguilar level
Yeah.
drops the ball,
Okay.
like even worse than that, and it's like I I don't know, I just don't know about this one.
Okay. Well, hey, fair enough. Like I said, I just don't see how it makes any sense because the guy's not even going to get a chance to get a rep. There's just too many people in front of him. So,
Yeah.
all right. So let's just see if I got any other notes here on the draft. I don't really think we got to worry about these other guys. We're talking about, Huntley being a special teams guy mostly, and Penasini, maybe he gets a little bit of action on the D line just because we're kind of thin in the middle there. But all right, yeah, that's all I had on the draft. Unless there's some other notes you got before we move on.
Let me just double check. I think that was, yeah, that was about all I had on the draft.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, so let's just kind of sum it up. Let's get to the gist of it. What does it all mean? We've kind of recapped all the highlights. We could have gone a lot deeper because obviously there's been, about 100 other transactions, but these are the ones that really are supposed to have the most impact. Hopefully, we end up uncovering a diamond in the rough somewhere that we've not talked about, but. Yeah, you started off with your bold prediction about what you think's going to happen with the Lions. Why don't you continue on that, and then I'll go on my rant because I'm like the polar opposite.
Yeah. So with the Lions, the first thing I looked at was the division, I think Chicago. I see 2 wins there. I don't see us losing to Chicago this year. I think Chicago is just they're on the decline. They're I don't like who's Nagy is Nagy their coach?
Yeah. You don't think that
Yeah.
they're going to pull something off with Foles?
I don't think so. I don't think Foles is a starter in the league. I don't think he has it for a 16 game season. I don't think first of all, I don't think Foles is starting game 1 this year,
No. No, you're right.
especially with this offseason. So that's Trubisky, and Trubisky is terrible.
Yeah, he sucks. I mean, it sucks. He was a high pick, and
And
yeah, I don't know how else to put it. I don't know how else to put it. I can't be nice. I don't like him. I think he's horrible.
yeah, I
I mean, the
I
guy's a
like
millionaire. He's not going to be worried about what I say about him, or he shouldn't be anyhow.
so with that pick, when Chicago traded up to the second pick and picked him, I verbally said, "What the fuck?" And nobody was in the room with me when I was watching the draft, and I said,
Yeah.
"What the fuck?" So it's like it made no sense whatsoever to draft him, and they've already declined his option, so you know he's not going to be there.
Yeah, he's on the way out.
He's on the way out. Um, then you look at Green Bay. I think Green Bay is in flux. I
Hmm.
think Aaron Rodgers is pissed off,
Yeah,
but they've not put any additional talent around Rodgers for him to succeed.
that's
So
true.
I think that hurts Green Bay a lot. Then so I could see 1-1 against Green Bay. Probably losing in Green Bay because we always do.
Yeah, we usually play Green Bay tough at home,
Yeah,
but I think. All right, yeah, I'll let you keep going before I chime in because once I get started, it's going to be hard for me to stop.
yeah. And then Minnesota, I see the same thing. So I see them going from 0-6 last year in the division. I believe they were 0-6. They didn't win that many games, so I can't see them winning in the division to probably being 4-2. And then you look at their schedule. They have Arizona, who's going to be on the uptick, but I think we can get them. We tied them last year because some reason
Because
we
we
couldn't.
suck, man.
Yeah,
We had a
and
huge lead and we pissed it away.
and then you look at and then you have Arizona. You have I have to have to actually look at your schedule. You have Arizona. So easily, I could see them starting the season 2-2. Jacksonville's rebuilding. Jacksonville's trying to tank for
Taylor or whatever his name
Taylor
is.
or
Yep.
whatever. Trevor Lawrence.
Taylor, I was way Slippy, Slappy, Swanson. Checked
Yeah.
it back. Samsonite, I was way off.
So you have Jacksonville and Atlanta. I think they probably could win both those games. I don't think Atlanta's going to have a good year this year at all. And they play Washington, another terrible team. Carolina, a rebuilding team. And so I could see easily if couple balls bounce the right way, I could easily see them being 10-6 this year.
That's generous. I see too much dysfunction with the team still, and I think we've got a strange off season to say the least with this whole COVID-19 thing, and I think that's going to work against us because we've got a lot more churn on our roster than a lot of these other teams. But going beyond that, I could name a number of reasons. I mean, we've talked about it earlier. I just don't have any faith in Patricia. I think he's a horrible head coach, and even though he's now brought in every Patriot he can find, I don't think it's going to be enough to save his ass. And when I look at the NFC in general, I think it's a really deep conference. And even with that extra playoff spot starting this year, that extra wild card spot, I just don't see us getting it, man. I think that, I think 500 at best. And I
Oh,
like.
I wasn't saying 10-6 was a playoff spot.
Okay. Well, all right, but I got you. Okay, so I don't think we get close to the playoffs. Is I guess a better way of putting it. I think 8-8 is the ceiling, and I've not gone through the schedule like you, and I think once we get a little bit closer, I'm going to do that because I like to do that with all the teams. I like going through week by week and saying. I think they'll win. I don't know if I don't like that. I think it'll be close, yada, yada, yada. And I like adding it all up and seeing where it shakes out. I just think with the Lions this year, I'm so pessimistic about them. I can't see them sniffing the playoffs, man. Not in the NFC. And I think if they don't make the playoffs, I gotta believe Patricia and Quinn are gone, man. And if they're not gone, fuck, what are we doing? We're just like spinning our wheels because they've not really shown anything else. They gotta get it done, shit or get off the pot. It's time, man. And so I don't know. I just don't see it happening this year. And you know, I hinted earlier I was going to go to the Stafford thing, and now is the time for me to do that. Okay, like you talked about with trading Diggs, and it lit a fire under him. I've been saying this for years now with Stafford. I get it; he looked great last year before he got hurt, but the team was still 3-4-1. I mean, it was still a losing record. Okay, and so he wasn't that great that he could put the team on his back and get him there. And it's unfair for me to say that because everybody defends him that he's a great quarterback. If he was on another team, he'd have success. Okay, so let's trade him. Let's let somebody light that fire under his ass and have him go on and have success somewhere. It's it's one of these things, whatever, fair, not fair, whatever. He will be better off somewhere else. And for us, I think it's like, okay, now we can officially say we're back into a full rebuild. Because as long as we've had Stafford, it's like, well, we're kind of rebuilding, but we're kind of not because we got our franchise quarterback and we got Calvin Johnson and Ndamukong Suh and all these guys, and we're making these moves every year, but we still got our core guy. He's going to help us get there. And I don't know, man. I say we missed the playoffs. Fuck it all. Trade him. Do him the favor. But get something for him. Get something in return. Like Miami, when they traded all their guys, they got fair value. And look at what they've done, man. They had a huge overhaul in the draft. We need something like that to basically just say, hey, it's official. We're going to break the leg, and then we're going to let it heal. My opinion. And here, just one more thing. I had one more note on this, because we were looking at the free agency and what's going on with these salaries and stuff like that. The Lions, they've got almost 9% of their salary cap for this year allocated towards people that aren't even on the team anymore, okay? It's been a little while since they've done this shit, but it's happened before where we're paying guys like Sue and whoever else. Oh, they're not playing for us, but we're still stuck with money on the books from these guys. 9% of the cap, man, that's a huge amount. Like, you can't be that stupid with your players because every dollar can, I don't know. I mean, 9%, you're just telling me we're missing out on a stud that we could be paying to fill that void. And to me, that's inexcusable. To me, that's your ass should be fired, Bob Quinn. But, I'm not the boss here. And then, aside from that, I'm looking at the team right now. And I know the COVID thing has everybody in disarray. But the Lions have $23 million in cap space. The last time I checked it the other day, 5th most in the league. Come on, throw some darts, man. Your asses are on the line. Swing for the fences. I don't care. Bring in Antonio Brown. I know that you don't need another wide receiver, but if you got him, now you got 3 freaking studs at wide receiver. And yeah, maybe he misses some games, but you know what? Maybe while he's suspended, Galladay gets hurt. And so as soon as he comes back, you're great. You're good to go. Wait,
didn't Antonio Brown officially retire for the 3rd time in the last year?
Yeah, he's on again, off again. All right. He's a head case. Wide receivers usually are when they get to that level. But what I'm saying is whether it's him or you go after one of these guys like Clowney or whoever, there's still a lot of good free agents sitting out there. All I'm saying is there are guys with a ton of potential that other teams, for whatever reason, are hesitant to go after. You got $23 million in cap space. Go out and get at least 1 or 2 of these guys and try to give it a good run here, because if you don't, that's it. It's over. And then Patricia will go back to New England and be a defensive coordinator, and it'll be cool. But we'll be left holding the bag with all of these failed picks from him and Quinn that we're going to be stuck with for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I definitely agree that we should get rid of Stafford. When we were talking on draft night, we wanted them. If you're not going to trade back, draft one of these quarterbacks.
Yeah,
and just
it's too high. It's too high to not take a quarterback, number 3.
Yeah, yeah, and heck, even towards the end of, I was begging them to do, even though I'm not fully sold on Jordan Love, I was begging them to do what Green Bay did and trade back into the first round to pick Love, because I knew somebody was going to do it. And
yeah.
I think get him, have Stafford maybe this year, and then ship him off next year. Let the guy sit, learn the offense, learn behind Stafford, and maybe have a little bit more touch on the ball, be able to throw to a wide receiver or a tight end instead of just freaking rifling it at them and it bouncing off their hands, which is another reason why the wide receiver they drafted is a terrible pick, because Stafford can't throw with touch. If the guy doesn't have hands as it is, you have to throw even more touch to them for them to be able to catch the ball. But I never liked Stafford. I haven't liked him since the day one. There was a year there where I thought he had that locker room, and that was like year 3.
Yeah.
When he broke, because of the Cleveland game. But other than that, I never wanted them to draft him in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. Taking a quarterback that high, it hinders your team because it takes up such a huge part of the cap that you hope that he ends up being a stud. Otherwise, it's like this. He's like our version of Phillip Rivers, but not even as accomplished as Phillip Rivers. He's a guy he's too good to let him go, but he's not good enough to put the team on his back and get him to that next level, like a Deshaun Watson or a Russell Wilson. And I know that it's unfair to compare him to other guys like that, but when you draft somebody at number 1 overall, that's what you're expecting, a game changer. You want an Andrew Luck type that's going to take a team that had like frickin' 2 wins. Now all of a sudden they're winning 11 games with regularity. And we've not gotten that with Stafford. And I'll tell you, I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but and it's a love-hate thing with me and Stafford, okay? Because he does show the potential, okay, and maybe the team is letting him down to a degree, okay, and whatever. But I go back to before we drafted him, and he was on NFL Network with Rich Eisen back when Rich Eisen was on NFL Network, and Eisen asked him, if the Lions take you at 1, are you going to restore the roar? And Stafford was like so awkward and basically was like, oh, I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to say that. And, to me, it's like, if you're in the conversation of being the first overall pick and somebody basically asks you, if this team takes you, you're going to do right by them. That's basically what he's saying. You got to be like, fuck yeah, I'm all over that. I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to take them to the top. I'm going to do everything I can to make it worth where they take me. And if it's another team, I'm going to do it for them. Like you don't like get skittish and stand back and like, I'm not sure. And hey, it's been however many years now since I saw the footage, but the message remains in my mind that, you could tell he really didn't want to come to Detroit and he wouldn't commit to being some kind of a game changer for us. And I don't know, to me, I just, from that moment on, I was like, I don't want this guy.
And that's similar to what happened before this past draft with Joe Burrow.
Okay.
I saw a lot of the same thing where Burrow was very non-committal about
going to Cincy,
going to Cincinnati, and like his answer was, well, I don't know if they're gonna pick me. Who they could fall in love with someone else. Like it was like, I don't want to go there. Please fall in love with another quarterback so you don't draft me.
Yeah, it's more than just being modest. It's it's like messaging. Yeah, I don't know if I want to go there.
Yeah, and even though he's from right up the road from Cincinnati, isn't he from like Akron or something like that, Dayton,
yeah,
whatever.
he's a hometown kid somewhere in Ohio. But that's an interesting one because I was listening to whatever show, I don't even know, this was a while ago, but talking about comparing him to Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton started, it must have been a year that they were negotiating the CBA, and there was a shortened offseason. And Dalton came out and had actually a really good rookie year for a second round quarterback, or for any rookie quarterback for that matter. And so I think Burrow's going to have to come out and at least match that, or people are going to be like, what the heck, man? We took you at 1. We got Dalton in the freaking second round. And it's another one of those things. Is it fair? Is it not fair to make that comparison? I don't know. I mean, Burrow sure as heck is going to have more weapons than Dalton had when he came in the league. But who knows? Their offensive line sucks. It might be a little bit better this year with some of the guys they got coming back. But, yeah, Cincy, hey, they were picking at 1 for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, hey, what do you think? You got any closing thoughts, or you want to shut it down?
No, we can shut it down. I think I've shared my closing thoughts.
You made your peace with what you had to
Yeah.
say? Okay. Well, so I guess let me just twist it real quick. Now that we're figuring out this YouTube thing and we got our intro video and we got our closing clip here, for anybody who's still listening, we would love to hear from you. And, we're not just asking you to like us and subscribe, but we'd like to get some comments on the page. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. We just want to hear from you. So anybody out there watching, hook us up, please. And James, like always, it's been fun. I'm looking forward to our next one. And I'll call you in a little bit, man. We'll play some games or something.
All right, sounds good.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut, hut, hike.